2 children's hospital employees are carjacked in the parking lot.
It's kind of like messed up, man.
I think it's really scary.
The outrage and safety concerns from the community. Maryland's struggling to hire enough police officers to keep you safe.
If we can't get men and women to join the ranks, we will start to see more crime.
The factors that could be hurting recruitment and retention of officers. A city councilman and council president hopeful proposes solutions to the crime crisis. Fox 45 News looks into his track record when it comes to crime legislation and why it's raising concerns for some. A Safe Streets location remains closed a month after being searched by the FBI. We investigate if its absence is having an impact on Baltimore's crime fight.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Another community is on edge after 2 armed carjackings within 24 hours at the Mount Washington Pediatric.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Other employees and parents tell Fox 45 News they're stunned anyone would target people caring for sick children.
I think it's really scary, and I think it's terrible for somebody to do that when they know that we're here helping people.
The parking lot is fenced off in a wooded area, leading some to question how the suspects got inside.
Fox 45's Keith Daniels was at the hospital tonight. He joins us live with an update on this investigation. Keith?
Well, Mary and Kai, so far, no word of any arrest made in these incidents, but police say there are no injuries to report in both cases. And tonight, for hospital staff, that's good news. At the Mount Washington Pediatric Hospital on West Rogers Avenue, it's the employees in recovery after 2 alarming incidents. 2 employees, each the victim of an armed carjacking within 2 days, back to back.
I think it's really scary, and I think it's terrible for somebody to do that when they know that we're here helping people.
Baltimore police got the first call just before 6 o'clock Wednesday evening. A female employee at gunpoint. Then, just after 11 o'clock Thursday morning, another call to police.
All you stand by reference to a vehicle taken in the carjack. Taken was a 2020 Toyota Camry, routed color.
The female employee told police a man and woman approached her, pulled a gun, and demanded the employee give them her keys to the car. They sped away. The employee left unhurt physically, but unnerved by the suspects.
They had a handgun, unknown caliber. Any units come in contact, please use caution.
As the latest incident unfolded, Ashley Wright says he and his family were at the hospital with his 6-month-old son.
But when we came, the police was here.
The father with reaction to what he witnessed.
Yeah, it's kind of like messed up, man, because, you know what I mean? People got right to have their stuff right. You know what I mean? And they taking care of people when you're doing this to them.
I thought about the woods behind the parking lot anyway, and I always look down there just to see if there's anybody down there when I'm going to the parking lot.
Well, hospital administrators say they immediately reached out to their partners, including Johns Hopkins Medicine, for additional support and resources. And with that, they say the Children's Hospital will be bringing in additional security forces, which includes dog patrols. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
All right, Keith, thank you. Well, Fox 45 has been following the rise in car thefts for months now. Baltimore has seen nearly 11,000 carjackings and thefts this year, more than triple the level reported in 2022. And while the Mount Washington carjacking suspects are not juveniles, police say young people account for 38% of car crimes across the city this year. 2/3 of juveniles who are caught are referred to the Department of Juvenile Services, but only 5% receive time at a DJS facility.
Well, the car crime is extending beyond Baltimore City. A Baltimore County woman tells Fox 45 News 2 teens carjacked her at gunpoint steps from her home in Rosedale. That attack left her with a black eye and a concussion. She says those responsible need to be held accountable.
These kids don't have consequences, and that's what makes me very angry. And I am furious, and I'm going after these. I want to prosecute. I want to see some type of retribution.
Other city residents say their concerns about juvenile crime aren't being heard. A Butchers Hill woman says she's lucky to be alive after a 12 and 14-year-old were caught on camera assaulting her and trying to steal her car.
Law. I'm pissed off at the law. This should never, and what if this could have ended really badly? If I hadn't seen them behind me and turn, I could have hit my head. They had a screwdriver. They could have stabbed me if they really wanted to. You know, that's not okay.
The boys were released by police after a few hours. Police say the 12-year-old suspect is connected to more than a dozen car thefts across Baltimore. He was 11 at that time. A psychiatrist tells Fox 45 News young people need structure. She says without clear consequences, they're likely to continue pushing boundaries.
You get a thrill out of doing something illegal or wrong. If you get away with it, you're going to want to chase that thrill again. So, and next time you're going to want a bigger thrill.
We have also heard from police and top prosecutors across the state saying juvenile justice laws leave their hands tied. They are taking issue with two laws: the Juvenile Justice Reform Law, which prevents children 13 and under from facing most criminal charges, and the Child Interrogation Protection Act, which states police can't question any child as a suspect or a witness without notifying parents and attorney approval.
It would be like legislature raising the speed limit to 100 miles per hour on interstate highways and then questioning why we're not writing more speeding tickets on the interstate.
Let us review all felonies. Let's address this back to the judges.
Well, some Democrats in Annapolis are standing by these laws, which have been in place since last summer. Senator Will Smith says that isn't enough time to determine whether the laws will be effective.
I, for one, am not interested in rolling back the reforms that we put in place last year.
Many say Maryland can't wait to see change. They want to see it now. Fox 45 News brought those concerns to Governor Wes Moore this week. He says the laws need to be funded,
and it's the reason why I appointed a true reformer.
Schiraldi defended the state's juvenile crime laws in an interview with Fox 45 News this spring. He believes juveniles shouldn't be exposed to the adult prison system until
kids that are really young are much more of a social service problem than they are a criminal juvenile justice problem. And when you have a 12.
Some former lawmakers and police officials criticize Schiraldi, saying those policies will make Maryland less safe.
You're basically saying up until the
have decided that it's better to support the lawbreakers rather than those who are enforcing the law.
Schiraldi also supports ending probation and parole for offenders of any age. And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you think Vincent Schiraldi is the right person to lead DJS? 94% of those who voted say no. You can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Fox 45.
Crime continues to plague every corner of the city.
I saw through the glass door where our bed faces a body drop down from the high roof.
Following a slow police response to a Canton home invasion.
He was a teen, 16, 17 at most.
District 1 Councilman Zeke Cohen making calls to BPD leadership.
I spoke to both Major Saunders, who's the major for Southeast, as well as Commissioner Worley, just to express my incredible concern. Any response that takes that long is just completely unacceptable.
Cohen also demanding change inside City Hall following a brazen Butchers Hill assault and robbery.
I was afraid I was going to get shot.
In which juvenile suspects caught, arrested, but then almost immediately released.
It does a disservice to those young people when they are immediately released, because it sends the message to them that this is for play.
Cohen calling for stricter consequences, but after reviewing his legislative resume, Fox 45's research team finding few bills or motions to support a tough on crime stance. In fact, of the widespread issues he's addressed, including prohibiting parking in bike lanes, banning plastic bags citywide, and increasing fines for illegal dumping, the research team claims hardly any of Cohen's legislation addresses crime at all.
The reason he hasn't really tackled as many crime issues is because of the district he represents has different type of crime issues.
According to political analyst John Deedy, historically Cohen's Southeast Baltimore district, containing Canton and Fells Point, not facing the same level of violent crime seen elsewhere in the city.
In his district, the issues may be things like recycling, trash pickup, and things like that. So it's different issues he's focusing on. But if you're going to run for city council president, you ought to widen your berth of things that you care about.
Didi adding it's difficult to pass new laws when Cohen's challenger for city council president still sits in the high seat.
They don't get along. They're running against each other for city council president. And any type of legislation that Zeke Cohen would want to introduce, Nick Mosby could kill it immediately.
Fox 45's research team also finding of the 622 sponsored and co-sponsored bills introduced by Councilman Cohen during his 7 years in office, 363 were resolutions, which typically is simply a stated opinion, not meant to pass any laws or change any policies.
In the long run, a resolution isn't going to solve any major problem as far as, whether it's crime, trash pickup, etc.
When asked to cite his crime-fighting initiatives in a statement sent to Fox 45, Cohen, pointing to a hearing held last month to discuss car thefts, fundraising efforts securing $1.4 million in state safety grants, and his endorsement of Ivan Bates for city state's attorney. I will always stand up for public safety, no matter the political consequences, said Cohen. But no direct crime-fighting legislation listed, as crime remains top of mind for voters.
Bring some laws into effect.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
In 2020, Zeke Cohen sponsored the 2020 Elijah Cummings Healing City Act, requiring city employees to receive trauma-informed care training. It also says departments have to evaluate practices to determine if anything was causing trauma. Critics say that opened the door for Cohen to work with Open Society foundations to train other jurisdictions in similar efforts. George Soros founded that organization. While Cohen disclosed that work on last year's ethics forums, taxpayer watchdog David Williams expressed concern.
This is something voters should pay very close attention to. Very curious to see Zeke have these two different lives play out.
Well, you can find more on Cohen's consulting work on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Next weather maker is moving our way. Notice all the rain from Memphis to St. Louis back to Wichita. All of that is heading up toward us. So what's that going to mean for you tomorrow? Well, let's plan things out hour by hour. On the future scan, we begin your day tomorrow dry, although there will be a few extra clouds that roll in. Notice by about 9:15 already out around Frederick, there are some showers. Thankfully, again, this is going to be a warmer system, so not expecting anything other than rain. But by noontime, 2:45, showers increase. So you're picking up the kids, you're going to need umbrellas, and it looks like the trip home could be a little harrowing, too. I'm going to let you know how long this could last into your weekend plans and what next week's looking like. We've had some indications maybe of snow. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10, the head of the Maryland FOP pointing to a few state laws as the reason behind the police shortage, why he says they're keeping officers away. BGE releases an internal memo concerning the city's controversial conduit deal one day after it was ordered to do so. A look at what the memo says and the lingering concerns. And the Bel Air Edison Safe Street site has been closed for a month in the wake of an FBI investigation. Fox 45 News investigates the impact on the community.
1 month after the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets site is suspending operations amid an FBI investigation, Fox 45 News went back to the site for a progress report.
That's right. Mackenzie Frost takes a look at how the absence of Safe Street services in the community is having an impact on crime.
The Safe Street site remains inactive. LifeBridge says that's due to inadequate staffing. And when we looked at the numbers from BP, executing a search warrant, where sources tell Fox 45 News several electronics were seized. Now, trash sits in front of the door, and the violence intervention effort not happening out of this office. Fox 45 News, the feds came knocking. But according to BPD, this year there have been 6 non-fatal shootings and 3 homicides. One along Bel Air Road in March, another in May on Shannon Drive, and Flowers.
The TJ Smith Show.
The Safe Streets investigation still the talk.
Welcome back to the show. TJ Smith here.
Of Talk Radio, where Adam Rosenberg and Freedom Jones, both of LifeBridge Health, the nonprofit managing the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets site, answering questions about working with the city to implement the Safe Streets program and when the Bel Air Edison location will reopen.
We won't decide ever on our own to necessarily shut down a site. We'll do it in coordination with Muncie there, and that's why we, with our partners in the mayor's office, are going to make sure that we're going to reopen Bel Air when the time is right, we have the right staff, when it's safe to proceed there.
Jones says the site will not reopen until there's enough staff, and right now she says the hiring process has many steps.
It is a complicated process that we are working to streamline. The vetting process happens in the street.
For people living in the Bel Air Edison neighborhood,
I think that things need to change.
The news of the FBI showing up at this Safe Street site,
there's no surprise,
is another red flag for a program with inconsistent results. All while Mayor Brandon Scott and the LifeBridge team maintain their support for the multi-million-dollar program. David Caldwell was the site supervisor at the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets location, and he's the one that's facing state-level charges stemming from that federal investigation. LifeBridge says as of right now, Caldwell remains on unpaid leave. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And Fox 45 has reported on a number of Safe Streets workers committing crimes in recent years. Ronald Alexander was sentenced to more than 11 years in prison for selling drugs. Charging documents include this picture, which authorities say appears to show him holding a bag of drugs. Prosecutors say he used his position in the Safe Streets program to try to stop investigators from tracking him. Then there's Vernon Harper. He pleaded guilty to federal drug charges that included dealing drugs in the same Safe Streets zone where he worked. His work with Safe Streets was revealed in his indictment, not by anybody at City Hall. Ronald Brady Jr. was accused of killing a man back in September of 2019. The case went to trial in the next year, but it ended in a hung jury. Brady was acquitted in March, but the victim's family is still highly critical of the Safe Streets program, calling it a criminal enterprise.
My belief is that our city government is financing a criminal enterprise. I believe that within my heart. Our city government is so invested in it that it's turning a blind eye to what it really is.
Fox 45 News has been following the Safe Streets program for years. You can find all of our previous reporting on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
BGE has released an internal memo surrounding the controversial conduit deal with Baltimore City, outlining how that deal will make money for the city. Release of the memo comes after a ruling from the Public Service Commission denying BGE's claims that it contained confidential information. The company says that memo shows customers will benefit from the deal, but critics aren't certain. The plan is expected to send customers' bills soaring by 5% each year for the next 3 years. The memo does not provide its own cost analysis. Councilman Zeke Cohen says that's why it's so important the utility company is transparent about the deal.
Look, that would cost taxpayers over $600 million over the next 3 years. I remain deeply concerned about the conduit deal. And my message to the Public Service Commission is they made the right call enforcing public transparency.
The 11-page memo is available at foxbaltimore.com, along with all of our reporting on the conduit deal.
Coming up, the truce between Israel and Hamas is extended, while U.S. officials have a warning for Israel about recent bombings in Gaza.
His nickname is Baltimore, a convicted sex offender who has seemingly disappeared, now believed to be somewhere here in Baltimore. I'm Alexa Ashwell. On Maryland's Most Wanted, the search for the fugitive, plus the knife-wielding suspect on the run, now behind bars, thanks to your tip.
And we could have some rain on the way tomorrow after a mainly clear overnight. Take a look at what happens into the day on our Friday. Yeah, the trip home especially could be a little harrowing with on and off rain. Noontime temperatures at 48, 51 at 4 with a 70% chance of showers, and could be kind of unsettled the next several days on into the weekend. I'll let you know when it finally get out of here and if we've got some rain or snow chances next week. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Well, right now it is all clear as we look over the Inner Harbor tonight on a clear and beautiful winter night. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
And taking a look right now at the Fox box on the top left, Israel and Hamas have extended their truce for another day. Qatar has played a big role in mediation, saying Hamas will release 10 more Israeli hostages and Israel will release 30 more Palestinian prisoners.
Top right, 3 people are dead in a shooting in Jerusalem just hours after the ceasefire was renewed, the truce rather. Officials say the attackers shot at civilians waiting at a bus station. Police say 2 Israeli soldiers killed both attackers at the scene.
On the bottom left, nearly 3,000 trucks carrying thousands of tons of international aid have entered Gaza from Egypt. Dozens more are at the border, lining up and waiting for clearance to enter Gaza.
Bottom right, Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Israeli and Palestinian officials today. He says he is working on more aid to Gaza while also urging Israel to do all it can to avoid attacking innocent Palestinians.
It's imperative that Israel act in accordance with international humanitarian law and the laws of war, even when confronting a terrorist group that respects neither.
Blinken went on to say Israel should put civilian protection plans in place before it launches any more attacks in Gaza.
Coming up at 10:30, Fox 45 dives deeper into police shortages across Maryland, why officers and the state police union say recent laws are incentivizing people not to join the force.
House Republicans release new documents they say bolster their case for impeachment against President Joe Biden. I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington with the details.
We are following three big stories.
Quarters in Greenbelt, why Virginia leaders say it's a conflict of interest and the firm response from the state of Maryland.
A recent dirt bike seizure raising questions about a new street racing law in the city. Why some say it hasn't been a priority for city leaders.
As crime is on the rise in Baltimore, the police department still struggles to hire officers.
Those of us in law enforcement are still trying to understand and feel our way through it. But how would you expect a young person that's...
They say recruitment is down across the state because new laws are painting police in a negative light.
Fox 45's Vincent Hill joins us live with the Maryland Police Union's concerns. Vincent?
Yeah, Mary and Kai, Sergeant Boatwright says folks that are thinking about becoming a cop are more concerned about looking like the bad guy for simply doing their job.
In Baltimore City, a carjacking in progress.
10-4, and you know if the boxes up.
It just said boxes down.
But no air support to look for the suspect. To make matters worse,
I was district short and 10-12. Been like this all week.
The entire district unavailable, while the victim waits for police to respond.
If we can't get men and women to join the ranks, we will start to see more crime.
According to Sergeant Clyde Boatwright, president of the Maryland FOP, recent changes to Maryland laws are the Independent Investigation Division as part of police reform.
What this now does is it gives the Attorney General's office, who is supposed to be an independent body, but they are not independent because they do the investigation and they get to decide whether or not they're charging.
Charges Boatwright says could be politically or racially motivated.
They know some of their views on determination of whether or not someone will be prosecuted or not.
We sent the following questions to the Attorney General's office. Do you believe these laws and repeals have drove down recruitment of potential officers? What steps are being taken to make sure investigations are unbiased? And as crime spikes across the state, should the AG revisit these changes? Another law Boatwright takes issue with outlines when an officer can use force. He says it puts officers in danger.
And have a standard of necessary and proportional.
A danger Deputy Ethan Messinio knows firsthand.
I had to wait until he dictated the terms of the resistance that he was and stay a step ahead. And because of that, I ended up getting injured.
Since the changes, BPD saw a 79% increase in resignations and still remain over 500 officers short. As the crime in Baltimore shows, says the real fight is getting people to do the job.
Right now, we're struggling to get people in, and we're serve with what we have, but yes, we definitely need more people to join the ranks.
And that Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, and even Montgomery County are struggling to bring on officers. At BPD headquarters, Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. City police added new benefits for new recruits. At the time, law enforcement experts said those efforts wouldn't be enough to bring in more officers, citing low morale. They also pointed to keeping politics out of policing.
You've got to have a unified operations. Let the police commissioner do policing and get the mayor out of that, because so far it's been a catastrophe.
State-mandated city police changed its districts in July. They're now based more off population and calls for service across the city. Commissioner Richard Worley says he's adjusting numbers of officers in each district, but none of the districts is fully staffed.
Baltimore Police Commissioner Richard Worley announcing dozens of promotions aimed at making the department more efficient and building a community policing program. Commissioner Worley appointed 2 new deputy commissioners. Monique Brown will oversee patrol and community policing, and Kevin Jones will run the Criminal Investigation Bureau. The department is also adding 3 lieutenant colonels. Each one will oversee 3 police districts. The changes go into effect on Sunday.
City police arrest a man on more than a dozen charges of stolen bikes and ATVs. And it comes a year into Baltimore's new street racing law aimed at cracking down on dirt bikes and stunt driving. Tonight, some people are questioning the effectiveness of the law so far. Fox 45's Amy Simpson explains.
A rare glimpse behind the scenes. Baltimore police sharing this video.
George, 4.
As officers executed a search warrant last week, recovering 17 dirt bikes and ATVs. some of them reported stolen, along with illegal weapons and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. 41-year-old Kevin Bridgeforth facing 47 charges. Court documents reveal 5 of the dirt bikes were reported stolen in Harford and Carroll counties, as well as Leesburg and Camden. So far this year, Baltimore police report seizing 186 illegal dirt bikes, surpassing a reported 180 seizures during all of 2022. In October, Fox 45's drone captured an aerial view of the city's Pulaski impound lot, and seen inside was a graveyard of dirt bikes. Councilman Isaac Schleifer sponsored a stunt driving and street racing bill last year, looking to crack down on the dirt bike problem.
Until now, it's been hard to enforce because the laws that would apply to this behavior is really nominal, and so therefore it's never really been enforced.
The measure signed into law by Mayor Brandon Scott, implementing up to a $1,000 fine or up to a year in jail for violators.
It's not only a safety issue for the citizens and visitors, it's a safety issue for the riders.
And this spring, police spoke to Fox 45 News amid heightened efforts to catch dirt bike riders, using technology to track them down.
We utilize City Watch, Foxtrot video, other cameras in the city to identify the riders. This takes away that whole chase mentality.
But in a city grappling with gun violence and juvenile crime, the question is asked time and time again: where does enforcement of dirt bikes fall on the priority list?
If you're a police department, you have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Of course, violent crime is always a top priority, but you can't let neighborhoods descend into chaos and anarchy.
I'm quite sure the police commissioner in Baltimore is focused on bodies. The main priority is life, and then it's limbs, and then it's dirt bikes.
Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Well, as for the new street racing law, Fox 45 News asked Baltimore police how many dirt bikes and street racing citations have been issued this year. The department acknowledged our question, but that data was not provided.
Federal agencies are looking into the decision to award the FBI's new headquarters to Greenbelt after Virginia lawmakers claim there was a conflict of interest in the decision-making process. They argue one of the appointees tasked with choosing the site asked the General Services Administration to change selection criteria to favor Greenbelt over Springfield, Virginia. FBI Director Christopher Wray also expressed concern about this conflict of interest.
A group of Maryland lawmakers pushed back on the claim this afternoon, saying General Services selected Greenbelt because it is the best site. They went on to say any objective evaluation would find Greenbelt is the better site, and the selection process was thorough and transparent. House Republicans are ramping up efforts to impeach President Joe Biden surrounding his son, Hunter Biden's business dealings. National correspondent Christine Frizzell has the story.
The impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden has so far been unofficial, with Republicans on Capitol Hill once again trying to change that.
The time is now to open up an impeachment investigation pertaining to the president's direct link to blatant corruption, pay-for-play tactics, and acting as a co-conspirator to the crimes committed by his family.
The House Oversight Committee has been digging into thousands of bank documents connected to the president's son, Hunter Biden, and his business associates, and just released a 2018 email from a bank investigator responsible for fighting money laundering, raising red flags about millions of dollars in fees being paid out, but which he writes do not appear to have any services rendered by Owasco PC, an entity controlled by Hunter Biden. Also calling the activity, quote, unusual and erratic. More evidence GOP lawmakers are hoping will get every member of their party to vote in favor of an official inquiry.
For months, House Republicans have followed the facts and, more importantly, followed the money, and it all has led right back to President Biden.
Since allegations surfaced before the 2020 election, President Biden has insisted he and his family members are innocent.
My son's done nothing wrong. I trust him, I have faith in him, and it impacts my presidency by making me feel proud of him.
Both the president's brother James and son Hunter have now been subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee. Hunter now insisting he will only testify publicly, accusing GOP lawmakers of distorting the facts and misinforming the public. Despite being under indictment by the Department of Justice, Hunter Biden has also recently filed multiple lawsuits, including against former Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani, and even asked a judge to approve subpoenas for Donald Trump himself, who he claims tried to pressure DOJ officials. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
A man nicknamed after our city. He terrorized and was on the run nearly 30 years after his crimes. The efforts to track down Baltimore ahead of Maryland's most wanted.
And the bus stop forecast going to shape up cool in the morning, but not as cold. But then the rain moves in.